do question the same types of things that we talked about. You question, was it worth it? Is the alienation that I'm doing from everybody else worth it? Is the giving up the meals worth it? Has all of this process been worth it? Has the amount of money that I've spent between supplementation and food and everything else worth it? Was it all worth it?
Make it hard. Come on. Work. Come on. Yep. Come on. Push through it. Come on. Don't touch it, fucker. Come on.
There's a certain point when you start to get to about 3 to 4 weeks out. And if you're in true contest shape, where your mind really starts playing tricks on you and you really start to question everything.
The biggest thing Nick has to concentrate on is himself. Just himself. Be here every day, train every time, eat every meal, put in every cardio session, do the posing, do the work. And if he's feeling down, I tell him, there's other people feeling down too. Let's go.
This way is that first 6 weeks was really more so than anything just prepping me for the next 6 weeks. Today officially I'm back at weight-wise. I'm actually below where we were before we started depletion week. So moving forward for the next couple of days here, we're digging into body fat we haven't touched yet. And so we kind of have to a couple of differences in training. The training is going to change in the aspect that it's still high intensity, but everything's a lot more controlled. Everything's a lot more focused as far as movements go, and not so much just moving through it. Just really trying to do our best to really break down the muscle tissue as much as possible, but also keep the intensity and weight high enough that we're still pushing my body, we're still digging into body fat without risking injury. Because at this point in time, joints are already pretty dried out. Knees and everything are already starting to feel a little bit. So now we have to be a little bit smarter about our training moving forward and kind of what we're going. Start with 2. So that'll be the plan over the next 6 weeks. Next 2 to 3 weeks, the goal is to pull off the last 5 to 6 pounds of body fat we have left. So this is actually where the real fun begins. That whole part about feeling shitty that I told you about, that's the next 2 to 3 weeks. Body's just gonna start feeling tired, start feeling worn down, which is why having these guys here for the workouts will help out a lot. Because at this point in time, this is where having somebody there to push you past what you think you can do helps out a lot. So Oscar's gonna be joining us every weekend from here on out, and still keeping the same, a little bit more intensity, but a little bit more focus, movements a little bit more focused, and really just trying to work on those last few pieces that we need to bring together for this North American show. So,
I think the biggest thing for me that I would always see, and we would always talk about this, is his back and his posing. And from the beginning, I was always very straightforward with him. I think eventually sometimes you surround yourself with everybody that sees you, and you have this crazy, freaky looking, veiny physique, and they say, oh man, you look amazing. But at the end of the day, like, you got to remember what he's who he's going against. You know, this is a national level show, and he's going to go against guys that have been doing this for a long time. So I feel like I was a person that can keep it very realistic with him and tell him and critique his physique to try to help him take it to the next level.
Last year during my prep, there were some days where I was just not having it. I was cranky, I was hungry, I was worn out, and I've gotten mad at him before. He's made me cry before during training sessions. It's a whole ball of emotions. So he and I have definitely had our moments during training, and when he's prepping too. But it comes down to the fact that it is what it is for that moment, and then we go back to being friends. It's nothing ever major or serious.
With this past week, I noticed my body's starting to kind of break down due to all the volume and max effort stuff. So we're going to switch up the training a little bit moving forward. So I have 2 days that are going to be max effort, balls to the walls days, and then 3 days that are going to be more aimed towards sub-maximal, but a lot more supersets, a lot more higher intensity stuff. But those 2 max effort days will end up being a leg day that's got quite a bit of glute and hamstring work, and then a back day that also has some hamstring work in there and glute work in there as well, since those are kind of the 2 lacking areas when it comes to conditioning at this point in time. So and then the rest of it's just kind of pump blood in the muscle, be smart, and just taking care of my body. Still pushing the limits, but like we talked about previously, I got to make sure that 1, I'm managing stress, and 2, I'm also controlling the amount of pressure I'm putting on joints and tissue and all that stuff. So
the way that I found out that he was having heart problems was I was at work. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he texted me and said, "Hey, I'm going to go talk to a cardiologist." And I'm like, "The fuck are you going to a cardiologist for?" I had no idea. So he does internalize a little bit. A lot of that is probably from my mental sanity. That would be my biggest worry. But at the same time, you know, he was bulking at that point, and doctor said you can't anymore, and so he backed off. I don't know what he would say. I don't know that he could go through another bulking season. I don't know that he could to try to get bigger. I don't know that his body would handle it. That's why it scared him more than it scared me before.
I saw him deadlift 688 pounds on film, and I thought he was going to explode when he did. I mean, it looked like he was going to explode when he lifted that off the ground. And then I go, 688 pounds. He goes, "Yeah, but Dad, somebody in my class lifted 740. How does a frame pick up 3 times its weight at that? You know, just.
I don't know.
I think that's the thing that I have both from my parents as far as that quality goes, and also from my wife, in the aspect that both of them were like, "Listen, as long as you love what you're doing, that's all that matters," right? So I'm of the belief that if you're truly passionate and you truly love what you do and you can truly help people, the finance aspects of things will cover itself, right? So I don't think that, I think that was something that was instilled in me early on, was, you know, whatever you decide to do, just do it full force, whatever that is. And, you know, we'll be proud of you no matter what you do, and just represent yourself the best you possibly can and push your limits as the best you possibly can, no matter what you decide to do.
I remember when he was in college, and he had his last, he wanted to play football again. He'd played in high school, and he'd had a brain bleed, and they told him, "Do not ever play again." No. But he was determined. He loved it. He got a scholarship. He wanted to play. So you just kind of have to sit back and say, okay, this is what's meant to be. And he's, you know, we don't want anything to happen to him, but he's an adult by then. He's 18, you know, so you kind of just have to say, all right, let's just, you know, we went to all of his games, watched him, and he was down a couple times and scared me to death. But yeah, it was pretty scary, but.
And they had him as a lineman I mean, he's not big enough to be I mean, even now he's 240, 250. Back then he was 190, and he was pushing off people twice his size because he was so low to the ground, and he could just explode up, and it would just pancake people. But I also told him, I said, it only takes one of those guys to fall on you wrong, and you're done. I mean, that's basically what happened too.
And I think that that trauma of the brain injury and kind of changing my outlook on what I could do and who I am as a person. I wasn't a football player anymore. I wasn't a college athlete anymore. But I still had that drive to compete. And that's where bodybuilding came into play, is it gave me an outlet for competing, but it also gave me an outlet for structure. And it gave me an outlet for creating something that's all on me. And that gives me a sense of pleasure, if you really want to think about it that way. And gives me a sense of drive and consistency, which is what I grew up on as an athlete, was consistency. So it was much easier for me to transfer that energy into this. And again, I was always lifting weights as an athlete, so that was already part of something I was doing. The idea of nutrition became more intriguing to me once I started properly implementing it and seeing how my body responded. Once I started seeing that, I was like, man, if I would have done this when I was 10, 11, till now, how much better could I have been, right? Same thing with the workouts. I think that's why I'm obsessed with learning about nutrition. I'm obsessed with learning about workouts and perfecting it, because I know how good I could have been, even more so than I am right now. And if I can take that energy and channel that into other people and show them, that gives me even more of a sense of a purpose. Also gives me an idea of, okay, now I've actually got a structure and an idea that I can hand off to somebody else and get them 30 steps ahead of where they were right now and make them an even better person than they possibly could be.